In this lesson, we'll learn about the color and swatch panels here inside of Photoshop. Okay, great. So this is the lesson 22 file. So in the last lesson, we learned about the background and foreground colors we have selected, as well as how we can choose a color using the color picker. Now, really, this is only one of the many places we can actually select a color here inside of Photoshop. So if you are looking at the exact same thing that I am here, using the Essentials workspace, then you should have quick and easy access to this panel right here. So this is Photoshop's color panel. And really, there's a lot of streamlined information here that's also contained inside the color picker. So if we kind of look at this panel, you'll see here that we again have our background and foreground colors. Now, this may be a little bit hard to see at this point, but I currently have my foreground color selected inside the color panel. And I know that because there's a very faint little outline around that particular color. Now, if I wanted to come over here and select my background color, all I need to do is simply tap on that to select that. Now, you'll notice over here as I select between those two, currently my background color is reading as 255, 255, 255. Now, this is, again, an 8-bit RGB image. Now, in the RGB color mode, we have 3 different channels. We've learned that in a previous lesson. We have our red, we have our green, and we have our blue. Now, on each of those channels, we can display between 0 and all the way up to 255 different variations of that specific color on that channel. So that's where the amount of colors available to us in RGB is calculated. So you can see here we can go up to 255 for each of the red, the green, and the blue channels. Now, as you can see here, we have our out of gamut warning that also shows up here inside the color panel, but we can also come over here with our foreground color selected, and if we tap on that, again, you can quickly and easily get right back over here to Photoshop's color picker. So again, this is just a very streamlined way of choosing a color without having to pop up that color picker window. If you want, you can come over here and you can actually just manually configure a color based on its RGB values. Now, again, by default, we're looking at the RGB sliders here, but maybe you're not comfortable choosing a color using the RGB sliders. Maybe you would prefer something else. Let's come over here and click here. Now, I apologize, this is actually being cut off for you just a little bit, but you can see here we can actually come in and choose maybe our hue, saturation, and brightness sliders, just like so. And now we have a hue strip, a saturation strip, and a brightness strip. So if that's an easier way for you to come in and select a color, by all means, feel free to switch up the way these sliders work. Now again, there is another component down here to the color panel, this gradient ramp right here, and this is sort of like a hue strip. And if you don't prefer working with these color sliders, you can always simply tap down here and select a color this way, just by tapping, and you'll see my cursor changes to this little eyedropper tool, and we can come in and select whichever color that we need right here from this hue strip. If you look really closely, there's actually a little white swatch and a little black swatch right over here. So we can come in and click either one of those really quickly right from that little strip right there. Let me come back in here and change that back to our RGB sliders here. All right, fantastic. So let's say that we're painting along here with something like our brush tool. Let me come in and grab that brush, and I'll go ahead and make that a little bit larger here. All right, fantastic. And maybe we come in here and we configure a color that we like to use with this particular image. Maybe we're coming in and we're wanting to paint in some greens like this. And this particular color of green is something that we actually want to save. Well, what we can do, let me just come in and set a color here for my background color as well. What we can actually do is if we make sure we have our foreground color selected, this green that we want to save, we can actually save that and record this exact color information inside this panel that's right next to our color panel. This is the swatches panel. And you can see here that there are a number of different swatches in here. These are the default swatches that should load with Photoshop. But you can see here, if I come down here and mouse over any of these, I get a little eyedropper. Now, that means I'm going to select that particular color, and I don't want to do that. Remember, we're wanting to save our green color here. Well, all we need to do is come down here and simply mouse over this empty area, and you can see my cursor changes to this little arrow with a little bucket. All I need to do now is simply click, and Photoshop's going to prompt me to save that foreground color here. Let's just call this something like my green, something like that. And you can see here that new color swatch shows up in my swatches panel. So I could come in here and I could maybe select some other colors. Maybe we're painting along with whatever color we want. And now we need to get back to that exact same green that we painted with before. Well, what we need to do is come over here and click on it, and we can come in and paint our green. All right, fantastic. Let me come over here and select my background color. Maybe this is a color we want to retain as well. Now, there's also this button right here, which will create a new swatch. If we tap on that, we're going to get that exact same color swatch name prompt here. So we can come in and call this maybe my blue. And there we go. You can see that it has also recorded that color as well. And again, if we need to switch between those, we can hit the X key and just simply come in and begin to paint. So again, the main thing to remember here is that you're going to be working with whatever color that you have selected here inside the color panel. Make sure that you pay attention to this little outline around here, because if we come in and we paint, you can see here that we're always painting with the foreground color, but what's displayed here inside the color panel is based on whatever we currently have selected. So you might want to make sure that you pay attention to that little detail. Now, let me come in here and configure a little different color. Let's come in and maybe we set it to something like this pink. Now, you may have noticed in the previous lesson, when we come in here to our color picker, we actually have the ability to add a color to our swatches right here from this dialog. So if I were to tap on that button right there, again, we are prompted to name. I'll call that my pink. And you can see here, if I go ahead and hit OK on that, come over here, we've got yet another swatch saved inside our swatches panel. So the swatches panel is really good about allowing you to save your own custom colors. Now, in the case of maybe you are a designer and you're sending things to a commercial printer, there are actually color libraries that are available to you here inside of Photoshop. And if we come over here and look at our color picker again, there was one other button right over here. Now, our color libraries can be accessed simply by clicking on that button right there, and you can come in here and access a number of different color libraries. Maybe you're needing to pull a color off the Pantone Plus Solid Coated library. We can come in here and we can choose whichever Pantone color we're looking for. Pantone is a color matching system so that you can choose accurate colors on a computer and make sure they're printed with 100% accuracy. So, and with this particular color library selected, we could come in and just simply type in a number, maybe 765. And you can see here I'm taken to 7650, Pantone 7650C for coated. So this is where your color libraries are. You can also come over here inside the swatches panel and this little panel menu right here, and loads up quite a large menu, but you can see down here there are the Pantone libraries available to you here as well. So if I wanted to open up the Pantone Plus Metallic Coated library, it's going to prompt me to replace the swatches in my existing swatches panel with that color library. I'm going to hit cancel because I know that I have some unsaved swatches over here. Now, in the case of saving out your custom swatches, maybe you want to save these so you can load up your own custom library. You can also do that right here from the panel menu. All you need to do is come over here and choose this Save Swatches option here. So, and if you want to load those back in, you can always load them back in right here. If we choose this Save Swatches option, it's going to bring up this Save As dialog and prompt us to save them as a .aco file. So if you're needing to save swatches out of Photoshop and bring in another group of swatches, maybe that someone else has saved, this is how you would do it. All right, fantastic. So in this lesson, we've learned about the color and swatch panels here inside of Photoshop. In the next lesson, we're going to move forward and we're going to look at some information about how we can begin using the eyedropper tool and some color sampling workflows that we can begin to utilize.